This is Donnie Vermillion, live from the UNN studios on Core Hall. We've got a breaking story for you. Let's go live to our own...
Like that.
No, you absolutely can't. We're getting into it. Second map will be Hardwire, and spawning over in the top right, as our red Zerg, it is Scarlett.
Got close to making the semifinals 2 seasons ago when she took a 2-0 lead over Innovation. Back then she wasn't able to go all the way. Perhaps this is her day. In the bottom left side though, we've got the last Protoss remaining in the DreamHack Masters Season Finals 2021. Representing Dragon Phoenix Gaming, it is Zest.
You obviously play this matchup a lot more than I do. How do you feel about this new map pool when it comes to this matchup in particular?
I think it can force a lot of very late game scenarios. I mean, Void Rays and Batteries are already good, but since the maps are big, and in general works in favor of the player that wants to force late game. Now, I don't know if Zest is necessarily someone that embraces the ultra late game, like the split map scenarios, we both get 8 bases and you're gonna get 40 Spore Crawlers, Infestors and Vipers. I feel that Scarlett has quite a bit of practice in those scenarios, thinking of all her epic series against Neep throughout the years.
Absolutely. If there's one thing that really comes into my mind about Zest late game when he plays against Zergs that are really damn good, I always think about those mothership run-bys and then getting into the main with a whole bunch of carriers, disruptors and things like that. I mean, he has his own take on it as well, but I don't necessarily class him as a late game specialist. But here, maybe he has to change up his game plan against Scarlett.
Yeah, it is going to be very hard for Scarlett to get a similar victory though. This time there is no gold base with 8 mineral patches, so if you want to make the same attack, instead of 17 queens, you're going to have 12 or 13, and that does make a pretty big difference.
Oh, it definitely does, definitely does. Very ordinary openings here from both of them. Zest going for the early hatch block, does get it. Scarlett just takes the third as her natural, and yeah, standard PvZ opener here.
You know what is very exciting, if we just get a bit ahead of ourselves and think of Scarlett making it to the semifinals, is he will face a Zerg player there. And I don't really care what year it is. Scarlett in a ZVZ, I will always believe that she can get the job done. Even when Cyril was absolutely invincible, there was one player that kept pushing him to his limits and actually should have won 2 series in that year. That could have prevented Cyril winning every WCS tourney in 2018. And that was Scarlett in Valencia and in Montreal. She really had the games in her back and she could have potentially done it. Once more, even if it's 3 years into the future, Scarlett in a best of 5 in a big tournament, ZVZ, I will always believe that she can get the job done.
Kevin, we have a Stalker here along with a Robo facility. Now, this isn't an opening you see every day. The kind of openings and things that can follow up behind this, what are you thinking is going to be Zest's game plan? Could it be like one of those 2-base all-in kind of situations? I mean, it's going to be rough. It's going to be rough. Oh, maybe just
Adepts or DTs, and you take a look at the gases in the main. They are fully saturated, so it could just be a Dark Shrine opening here. I'm not exactly sure where Zest is going to go with it, but definitely a bit confusing to see the Robo that quickly.
Yeah, because normally if you go for the DTs, don't you normally get like the Twilight first and such? But we'll be going for this Warp Prism here. We'll have to reveal it fairly quickly if he wants to deal with that Overlord at his natural.
Like, there are obviously some Robotics Facility openings with a Robo Bay as a follow-up, but we haven't seen a Robo Bay yet either, so it's going to be a Dark Shrine.
Yeah, a bit of an unusual way about going about things, but Zest, I mean, far better with Protoss than I'll ever be, so I won't knock it, but he really has to whip out his best of the best going up against a Scarlett that she's looking damn strong at these season finals, man. Like, already taken down Trap and Cure.
I almost feel that Zest wants to sell it as an Adept opening, but then it's the Dark Templar opening. He's like, oh, here's my Prism. Oh, we have an Adept in the wall off. We have a Roach Warren being built, not a single Spore Crawler yet. Dark Shrine is halfway done. I cannot imagine that Scarlett won't get a single Spore. There goes the Lair, but it's going to take a little while before that thing is up, and there is our first Spore Crawler too.
He did wait until he killed that Overlord to pop down his 3rd and 4th gas at the natural, so maybe a bit of lack of knowing exactly what's going on for Scarlett, but she's making Spore, so she's definitely knowing that something's up. Maybe a late Stargate. Seeing this random 3 Stalker squad here is very unusual, but...
Gotta be confusing. We've got a Spore Crawler in the natural, Spore Crawler at the 3rd base. There is no Spore Crawler in the main, and this Warp Prism is awfully close towards the main base. But this doesn't
What an interesting way of going about things. Like,
I feel like Zest wants to take a very big risk. Okay, he's going to send DTs into every single base and he's going to drop them in main, but there's detection there. There's detection at the third. The only place that has no detection, well, if the Dark Templar actually finds some success at the third base, that's pretty big for Zest.
I mean, this base as well, totally open here, and I don't know if a Spore Crawler's moving over there. I don't know what happened to the DT
Overseer.
outside the Natural as well.
We are going to morph an Overseer, but obviously that always takes a little bit. It's already a successful opening for Zest. It's not necessarily all the damage he's dealing. 6 drones is decent, but losing 2 Dark Templars is a bit painful. That's a lot of lost mining time as well on the side of Scarlett.
I gotta say, Zest handled that pretty damn well. Like, a worse Protoss could have stayed around for a long time, making a few Archons as well. Wow. You know, I haven't seen this kind of stuff in quite a while in this matchup.
I was like, why are we making more DTs if we already still have 1 DT out there? But the DT is just there to keep the creep in check, and that's actually kind of cool as well. War Prism flies into main base. These Archons are getting right on top of the Queens and kill the Overseer too. This is actually a moment where you could maybe decide to warp in a few more Dark Templars. It'd be a crazy move. But that Spore wasn't done yet. Imagine if you would have done that immediately.
Yeah, and I mean, Scarlett, she kind of was worried about it, making another Overseer. What's happening? Where's the rest of her army? These Archons are just going reigning supreme here.
I have rarely seen 2 Archons be this devastating. In Zerg main base, there are so many drones there, but the Spore Crawl is kind of keeping those drones safe. Says you don't want to lose an Archon here, and he does not lose an Archon, but man, this other Archon is an absolute believer. Zest knows that there isn't too much anti-air to worry about anymore. What a successful follow-up.
Yeah, really cool by him. It just felt like Scarlett had nothing, right? And now she's super supply blocked as well, so can't make anything either. That DT comes back over here and chopping out some drones. It's going from bad to worse.
A night and day difference between Game 1 and Game 2 here. And this game is played on the American server, which just goes to show that ping is obviously very important in StarCraft, but it's not necessarily everything. Zest hasn't won it yet, but jeez Louise, is Scarlett in a bit of trouble here.
Yeah, I can't believe how much lost mining has been done this game by Zest. And look at that, going for some juicy drone kills there. The Archon getting a bit carried away, but does get out of there. And obviously they regen when they're not taking damage. And having that Warp Prism in the back of your base, nothing you can do about it.
Yep. Meanwhile, at home, Zest's macro is clean. There's an Immortal on the way. There are more Archons on the way. +1 is done. I wouldn't have hated to see him fire up +2. There you go. Actually, well, Zest is just a man to my heart, isn't he?
Not missing a beat so far in this game. Totally different player almost showing up here. And
this is real clean, man.
I mean, look at that. 2.5k against like the 700. That's a great start for the Korean. And he's feeling like moving out as well. I don't ever think it's a bad play here.
Nope. Now Scarlett is going to get a couple of Ravagers, and Ravagers are very powerful defensively on creep, but Scarlett even lost some Overlords and Overseers, because he was a supply block there as well for a split second. I have the feeling that Zest is just going to go for it, because the Ravagers are not quite ready yet. Zest is going to run into the Natural. I wouldn't have hated to see him split off 2 or 3 Zealots immediately into the main base, but this could very well be a game-ending attack.
Oh my goodness, he's handling this very well, but Scarlett finally getting all the units in. 2 Immortals down. In fact, no, he does save one in the nick of time there. Scarlett getting a nice wraparound. The Zealots in the top really not buffering for this army, and all of a sudden, all the Immortals are gone.
Yeah, I gotta say, Zest derped a little bit there. I feel like he accidentally picked up units, and that's why he couldn't pick up the other units, the Immortals that were being targeted by those corrosive balls. Zest was getting a bit too carried away there. He's gonna lose the Prism. It's so close. Oh my goodness, it survives with literally 1 HP, man.
I saw you literally hop off your chair there. There was a Quill in midair there who was going to get the kill. Didn't quite get it. And Scarlett, she's had enough of this. She does have a little bit of a supply lead here. And I mean, it's a lot of Roaches and Ravagers.
There are Overseers on the way, but I don't see them here yet. So even a single DT. There's going to be Zealots coming in from the top. I mean, Scarlett has to imagine that Zest always has a bit of money behind that. Those Zealots are going to go to town, man. I don't think that this is an attack that can get really a whole lot done. Scarlett's even sending the Queens to the other side of the map. And now all the Ravagers are left by themselves. And Zest is still going to clean this up without too many issues.
My goodness, he basically won on both sides there. Like, Scarlett was a good 20-30 supply ahead. He still has to be careful. Like, he shouldn't probe at all at this point, I feel, because Scarlett very obviously all in with this. But Zest, Whereabouts is he going?
We're about to have +2 as well, though, on the Zealot. Yeah, Zest, I think Zest expected Scarlett to go back, but Scarlett ain't going back. Scarlett is sending everything that he has to the other side of the map. Empowering 2 gateways is nice. Sometimes Zest can make life so complicated on himself, because this is an army he could easily clean up. Instead, he's like, no, I'm going to fight on the other side of the map. I'm going to get on top of your reinforcements, but it does open the door on his side of the map for everything to be wide open, and now it's actually still going to get pretty close.
I think, obviously, it's a big advantage for Zest in this situation. He is ahead in supply, is Roach Ravager, but look, he's going to absolutely slaughter the economy of Scarlett, and he can still warp in back at home. He's actually got a decent bank as well to do it.
I love the way that he split up Zealots there as well. Zealots into the main immediately, a couple Zealots into the third. The rest of the armors in the natural. Zest gets the job done. I honestly think in very typical Zest fashion, where for 8.5 minutes, he looks like the best player to ever touch StarCraft 2. And then for 30 seconds, he's like, just kidding, guys, I'm human, I make a lot of mistakes too. And then he loses 3 Immortals, the Prism wasn't really doing anything there. Imagine if that Prism would have gone down as well with that extra Archon inside of it. The hold at home actually becomes pretty dicey.
It actually does, and it stops all the counterattack potential, but those Zealots that started taking out the reinforcements
that was
there,
cool.
Yeah, I mean, that really kept him in, absolutely. And I mean, he was in a better situation, but even the early opening with all the DTs, like turning 2 of them into, or 4 of them into 2 Archons there, having the DT go to the third and yet again, and just, it was a very difficult situation for Scarlett to handle.
It's the most Zest game ever, where he can just look godlike for so long. And then the fight that was supposed to be an easy fight, I feel like he accidentally picked up units in the Prism, and that's why he couldn't pick up the 2 Immortals that were clearly going to get targeted down by Corrosive Vials. And I think that Zest didn't realize that his Prism was full, but he was able to get away with that mistake since he got himself so far ahead that this Archon, look at the Prism, it's carrying stuff and now it couldn't pick up those Immortals.
No, yeah, I mean, I really thought that second Immortal died there, but all the Zealots in the top, they are chasing the drones, so they are getting a lot of damage done, but yeah, I mean, those Vials connected.
Even in the end there, it's like, where's that Prism going? Because all the Queens were on the right side, so that Prism really didn't have to go that far towards the left, but in the end, it was all good for the last remaining Protoss here at the DreamHack Master Winter Season Finals. Kind of what we expected, Ben. Like, it could have been a trios